Lovely, thanks Johnny. I'm down here surrounded by Ferraris and I bumped into John this morning, and there are many Ferraris here that you think, well, they're quite so special and they've all got their story to be told, but there's one in particular that John was keen to point out to me because, John, significantly in terms of racing terms and innovation terms, this one is arguably one of the most important here.
I would totally agree. Now, this is called the Sperimentale. It's 1961 experimental car ordered by Enzo Ferrari, based on his response to when he saw the Jaguar E-Type. He was enamored with the way it looked. He called that the most beautiful car he'd ever seen. He was also scared because that car was so sleek and looked like it would go through the air faster than his cars. So he said, build me something that's going to stay ahead of the Jaguars and take us to that next level. And this is what Pininfarina bodied on top of a 250 GT Berlinetta chassis with a Testarossa dry sump racing motor. And it weighs 2,100 pounds. It's completely aluminum bodied, chromoly chassis, and it was built to learn from. That's why it's called the Sperimentale.
And there's so many bits on this that Enzo Ferrari did indeed learn from, didn't he? Or rather the designers or Ferrari as a company learned from.
Absolutely. So one of the things in that era, Enzo was a very bold man, and he would say, aerodynamics are for those who cannot make horsepower. And so it's kind of a cliche for the times, right? That aerodynamics were not understood commonly and certainly not respected.
But about 2 hours before the race, at a very famous race, some aerodynamics were bolted onto this car.
Yeah, so Bizzarini and Chiti, two names you might know in the Ferrari world, were in charge of this project. It was a separate project from other things they were working on. The car was about 10 seconds off the pace. And they knew that the Germans had been working with wind tunnel testing, and they knew that these things worked, but they didn't want to insult the designer or insult what Enzo Ferrari believed in. So at the last minute, the morning of the 1961 Le Mans, they grabbed some scrap steel out of the back of the truck and put these canards or dive planes on the front. And if you look at the back of the car, there's a quick little Z-form wing that they bolted on, and all of a sudden the car's 10 seconds faster. So the proof's in the pudding, if you want to put it that way. The car actually had some downforce, it was able to be driven faster and maintain better lap times.
But still, Enzo Ferrari didn't like the wing that they'd put on the back, so they used it for the race, then they had to pull it off. But it was later iterations where suddenly we started to see that design come in.
Absolutely. I don't think they ever even they didn't ask permission or apologize. They took the materials off the car after the race and they were never reapplied. The car lived a pretty awesome racing life. After that, it was driven by Sterling Moss, the Daytona Continental, where it won its class, took 4th overall. It was a successful race car, but those little experimental bits were thrown away and forgotten, because it was an insult to the Pininfarina designers, who were, of course, Italian, and believed that beauty generated speed. To a certain degree, that's true, but aerodynamics, science, also exists, and they have to coexist together.
Yeah, they certainly do. And coming out the factory there, you know, Italian Ferrari, you'd think it has to be red, and this one obviously is blue. We've got a French flag on the top there, and there's a little bit of thinking going on that ticked the box there as well.
Yeah, so they thought ahead. This was an experimental car, which means they didn't really know what it was going to do. Most factory Ferraris are painted red. That's their color. That's the Italian country color. This one's obviously painted blue and has the French colors as stripes. And that's because in case the car didn't do well, then they could walk away from it and say, well, that's not a factory works project. But it did pretty well. And this was the original livery. It was later painted white with white racing stripes on it. When we bought it, it was red. This car lived all kinds of different lives as a drag race car, as a sports car racer, and as Luigi Cinetti's shop car. He used to send the young guys in the shop off to the grocery store to pick up hot dogs in this car because it's so drivable.
John, listen, we could talk about this car all day because there are stories for days, but you know, all the experimental nature of everything that's begun on this car, hands down, takes the prize for one of the most significant Ferraris here today, and I'm thrilled that you talked to us about it.
Thank you very much. I think one of the takeaways to take away from this story is this is not the GTO prototype. No. It's commonly maybe referred to as that. This is a separate experimental project that contributed to the development of the 250 GTO.
There you go. How about that, Johnny Green? An education in Ferrari from a man that really knows his stuff. And from cutting edge technology of the day there to cutting edge technology of the 21st century. Take a look at these hypercars. Johnny, back to you.